So understand that Dr. King was evolving from where he was in 63, from where he was in the Montgomery bus boycott. And we want to remind everybody that he was only 26 years old when he led the Montgomery bus boycott, which was a successful bus boycott, which of course happened after the Baton Rouge bus boycott. Now I want to read something from page 117 of one of four, I believe, of Dr. King's books. One of four of his books. And he says, every Negro comes face to face with this color shock, and it constitutes a major emotional crisis. It is accompanied by a sort of fatiguing, wearisome hopelessness. If one is rejected because he is uneducated, he can at least be consoled by the fact that it may be possible for him to get an education. If one is rejected because he is low on the economic ladder, he can at least dream of the day that he will rise from his dungeon of economic deprivation. If one is rejected because he speaks with an accent, he can at least, if he desires, work to bring his speech in line with the dominant group. If, however, one is rejected because of his color, he must face the anguishing fact that he is being rejected because of something in himself that cannot be changed. All prejudice is evil, but the prejudice that rejects a man because of the color of his skin is the most despicable expression of man's inhumanity to man. Now, what was he saying? He was saying, hey, I can change everything about myself. I may be able to work to get educated. I may be able to work to obtain wealth. I may be able to work to have my speech pattern to comport with what is socially acceptable, but I cannot change my color. And when you reject me because of color, that's something I can't change. Now, what I would add is, nor should you want to change it. Because one of the things that he evolved into during his time among us was that black was something beautiful, not something to be ashamed of, not something to be stigmatized by, but black was in fact something that is beautiful. All right? So I wanted to lay that out there and start the program off with some of Dr. King's words. Because a lot of people talk about him, but a lot of his words, and when you talk about a man that wrote books, and those books are not required reading, you have to be suspicious whenever a man is talked about, but most of what he said and most of what he did is not talked about. That means he's been sanitized, he's been homogenized and made acceptable, just like Malcolm X was reduced to the slogan of by any means necessary. Dr. King has largely been reduced to the slogan of I have a dream, so that when you study what you think is history, it's not a complete history. Therefore, you can't get a complete lesson from something that is incomplete. I hope you follow me. We must have the complete history of King, the complete history of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the complete history of Malcolm, the complete history of everyone that the enemy puts in the news, right, or tries to disparage. We need to have the true history of that one so that we can then glean the lessons of history from the life of those great ones that have gone before us. And many of them have been absolutely slandered, like Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, now the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And until they sanitized Malcolm and cleaned him up to where you could not really understand him, they were demonizing him up until the very end of his life. And I wanted to read something from an article, and I wanted to lay this out because the final call, is so important. Now, the title of the current final call is Dr. King in Context. Dr. King in Context. Everybody that lives has a whole life where they evolve. If somebody would have found me 35 years ago, 36 years ago, right, 38 years ago, the person that they would have met then, maybe in 1986 or 1988 or 1990, would be a much less evolved Brother Darrell than what you see on the program today, because I've been constantly evolving. I've become wiser since we've been doing this program since 1999. Okay, so now when July hits, it will be 25 years of the Community Defender. Now, the thing you got to understand is that over that time, we've been evolving. When you go back to the radio program where the Community Defender was on the radio program, you're really talking about 27 years of the Community Defender. If you don't believe that we've evolved since that time, you got another thing coming. Now, Dr. King was constantly dealing with our problems, constantly looking at different situations, constantly looking at patterns, constantly being spoken to. People were trying to influence him this way, that way, and so forth. And so he was evolving. The I Have a Dream speech happened in 1963. He was assassinated in 1968. So he was much more evolved. And as I said to you before, he disavowed the dream and said that it was, in fact, a nightmare. That's what you got to understand. So while they want to attach you to the dream, and they want you to believe in the dream, that when he was assassinated, he didn't even believe in that dream. The dream of everybody holding hands. You can't hold hands with somebody that desires to mass incarcerate you. You cannot hold hands with somebody that desires to rape your women and shoot your boys. You cannot hold hands with somebody that wants to put all of your comedians and actors in dresses and emasculate you before the world. You cannot hold hands with somebody who does not want you to have the same rights as they have and therefore does not see. You cannot treat somebody as a brother that is not a brother. I want you to follow me, because there's a section in a book called Message to the Black Man where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad lays out that the people who enslaved us and the people who continue to oppress us are not our brothers and should not be taken as what they are not. When somebody is closing down your schools in your community and then wanting to build prisons, that is not a brother. When somebody mass incarcerates you, when somebody brings in tons of cocaine by their own admission and drops it in your community, and then comes back a few years later and imprisons you for selling the drugs that they brought in, makes you look bad for the epidemic that they started, that is not a brother. That is not a group of people that can be trusted. And when they can go overseas, over to Iraq, over to Vietnam, and kill millions of people, do you think you can trust them? Do you honestly believe that as black people, we have a future with a nation that will snuff out 1.5 million Iraqis, 7 million Vietnamese, 350,000 Cambodians? You understand? And try to depopulate the earth? Do you honestly believe that we will have a glorious future with a serial killing individuals? You understand? With a serial killing government? A government that is a serial killer of not just people, but nations. I want y'all to think. Think about what you're trying to integrate into. You may be integrating, as Dr. King said, into a burning house. All right? Now, here's the thing that I want to mention to you. There's a move, even in East Baton Rouge Parish, right down the road, that our people are promoting a bigger and newer prison. That some of our people are working with the media to promote the very thing that Dr. King worked against. Our people are siding very often with the police who shoot an unarmed black person. Our people are afraid of the police union. Our people are fearful instead of fearless like Dr. King. Our people, our elected officials have what? Sold out the movement for freedom, justice, and equality. Have literally turned their back on King. But they always speak at the Dr. Martin Luther King programs every year. And they're cowards. And it is that kind of hypocrisy which gets under Brother Darrell's skin. I don't like that. I do not like a coward trying to represent somebody who had courage. And whenever a great one leaves, those who are afraid to walk with that man and walk in the principles of that man or woman, because Fannie Lou Hamer was a soldier, right? Assata Shakur was a soldier, right? All of these people have been soldiers, but the thing about it is those who really don't have the courage to stand on anything come out and say how much they admire that person. But unless you're willing to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, that's hypocrisy. Now, I have spoken to you all for nearly 25 years from this very place. And I have spoken to you about the urgent need for black unity. Anybody who knows me, you know I have spoken about the fact that the only thing we lack is unity. And the only reason we lack unity is because we need a love for ourselves. Our leaders are still talking about good hair and bad hair. Our leaders are still speaking the slave language. You understand? And if somebody is a slave in the mind, where can they lead you except to more slavery? So all of their degrees, all of the elections that they told us, go out and vote, go out and vote, go out and vote. And the very people that we voted for went up there to Washington and voted for the very crime bill that has your cousin and your uncles in jail, and they're not coming home for another 10, 15 years, if at all. A bill, by the way, that the person that most black folks voted for actually wrote. Joe Biden has not earned the black vote. He's earned the Ukrainian vote, but not the black vote. All right? Maybe Netanyahu can vote for him. But he has not earned the vote of black people in America at all. And anybody, and I'm going to say this without any doubt, anybody that tells you otherwise is an imposter as your brother or sister. They are a slave. Anyone who speaks for Biden, anyone who tells you about Biden's accomplishments, anyone that comes before you and tells you that I'm afraid of Trump. Doggone it, we've had Reagan. We have had two demonic Bushes. We've had a devil Reagan. We've had a crazy Trump. Look, we have survived all of that. And our vote with the Democrats gets taken for granted. They treat us like punks. The doggone Ukrainians got in line ahead of us. Our brown brothers and sisters got ahead of us in line. They're being cared for better than we are. You understand? And reparations, true reparations, is not even on the table. Kamala Harris ain't going to represent you. She's not going to ask Biden to treat you better. She just wants to be vice president with a hope of getting in that Oval Office. That's all. Her husband had a roundtable discussion at the White House, not about anti-black racism, which is America's worst sin and worst problem, not about mass incarceration, but about anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is way down the list of America's problems, of America's issues of injustice. We are top of the list. And anybody that does not put us absolutely first, with us being the most damaged, let me give you an analogy. It's like if I cut my pinky finger and I got just a little blood coming out of it and it hurts. And there's a man there with a heart attack and another man that's shot 3 times in the chest with a .38. And they don't even attend to those people, to the heart attack person, to the gunshot person. They come over here with me with my little pinky finger and say, let us treat you. I'm not even a serious problem, but they treat me first. Ukraine is not a serious problem. Those other round table discussions are not a serious problem. We are the most serious problem, comparatively speaking. That's just what it is. And the fact that Joe Biden has a plan to work against anti-Semitism but does not have a plan to work against anti-blackatism, he doesn't deserve your vote. And if you vote for him, I'm going to go out on a limb, you done punked out. If you vote for somebody who has ignored you and treated you bad, doesn't make you a priority. Hell, sometimes we leave our spouse if our spouse doesn't make us a priority. If our spouse doesn't respect it. We break up our whole home because we think we got disrespected. But you're going to let Biden and the Democrats make a punk out of you? And I want you to look at this in Louisiana. Before we run this clip, I got to mention this. The brother who ran for governor, what's the brother's name? Shawn Wilson. Smart brother, ran for governor. The idea that the Democratic Party of Louisiana gave him pennies compared to what they gave the other guy, the white guy, and how we were able to turn out and put White Edwards in, but we weren't able to turn out and put Mr. Wilson in. I'm talking about black folks. And I'm talking about what? The state Democratic Party that did not put any money, really, very little money behind Shawn Wilson. But they put everything behind the white boy named Edwards. I'm just laying it out there. They're racist. And the idea that you would bow down to them and punk out for them when they have not backed you and your issues is a problem. I'm going to lay it out there like that. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same thing. Go ahead, caller, you on there with the community defender.
Yes, Brother Darrell, I agree with everything you're saying. And what I want to say is, man, it's like Michael Jackson had a song a couple of years ago. It was called You Got Me Working Day and Night. And I'm working day and night to pay taxes and to pay bills. And I've worked hard to help put Joe Biden in office when I went out to vote. And the first thing he does is go to Congress and beg money for the Ukraine. Billions of dollars for Ukraine.
Billions. That was supposed to go to HBCUs. That was supposed to go to Southern. That was supposed to go to FAMU. That was supposed to go to Hampton University and Howard University and Morehouse College. That was supposed to go to our institutions. That was supposed to go to Grambling, right? But it went over there to the Ukraine, and it's not doing us any good. And they didn't even vote for Biden. So I'm going to tell them when they call my phone, because a lot of times I get emails, because you concerned citizen, they'll call. Look, tell him to get the Ukrainians to vote for him. I'm not doing it.
That's it.
I'm not doing it.
We got so much problems in the black community, and we could use that money to build schools, not jails, but build schools.
There you go.
And we have single moms working hard, 2-3 jobs, and I mean that money we could build parks and all kind of stuff. And
look, trade centers, because a trade center, they're looking to spend $300 million for a brand new jail to double the amount of people of the prison capacity of the parish where I'm from. That's really what they want to do. They've been talking about it for years. We were able to defeat it when Kip Holden tried to put it forth. It was voted down, thank God. And of course, we worked and spoke against it. The Nation of Islam in the city of Baton Rouge was openly opposed to prison expansion because that's not what we need. But you could take $60 million and build a top-notch vocational center where you could teach welding, That's $85,000, $90,000 a year. That you can pay bills with that. You can be a man with that. Electrician, that's 6-figure. Plumbing, that's $90,000 to $130,000 a year as a plumber. Drywall, carpentry, all of these trades, these what we call skills that pay the bills. And so that's pretty much what you could do, and then you would not need more prison space. But you want to invest $300 million in the incarceration of people that are largely going to look like you. You're promoting that on the news like a sucker, and nobody's going to say anything. Well, we're going to say something on the Community Defender, and I'm grateful to Almighty God Allah that Mouse number 65, my place of worship, is going to say something.
Oh, yeah. They come out there, man, and a lot of times growing up, they say, well, crime don't pay and all this other stuff, but, I can't tell. With George Biden's case, I mean, I can't tell,
So,
but,
man, but look, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, there's just so much money is being put into these prisons because you have these inmates working so hard and these corporations making money off of these prisoners and stuff. So, like I said, I mean, when they see crime doesn't pay, they got to be food, on the real.
Absolutely.
On the real.
Well, it's definitely paying somebody. It's just not us. Thank you for your call, my brother. And I definitely appreciate your support that you've given us over the years. All right? Definitely appreciate you and all of that support. Now, what we want to do is we want to hear from one of our elders who has passed. We call him an ancestor, Brother Harry Belafonte, who is going to speak on not only Dr. King, but political issues and our situation here in America. So let us hear from a brother who knew Dr. King and wasn't just running his mouth, but a brother who put his money where his mouth is, and he actually walked the walk. All right, let's go ahead and hear from Brother Harry Belafonte on this video.
The last thing Dr. King said to me before he was murdered was in my home when we were sitting planning strategy for the Poor People's Campaign, which was on the horizon of the politics of the day. Martin said, I've been thinking long and hard about our struggle. We worked tenaciously for our rights, and the culmination of all that effort will be reflected in what we've come to call the integration movement. And I sit here deeply concerned that I suspect we're leading our nation on an integration trip that has us integrating into a burning house. For Dr. King to have been in this place at a time when we seem to be making great headway was a moment to pause and reflect. That reflection has taken longer than I had suspected it would, but it has certainly come to reveal itself fully when we look at the condition in which we find not only our world, but in particular our nation. We have a lot of wreckages around this country. And perhaps the most distracting and perhaps the most important wreckage to take a look at is really the wreckage of the Democratic Party.
Get him to the stage.
I've been a Democrat all my life. I have no treaty with the Republicans, nor do I really seek one. But the Democratic Party was not always our friend. As a matter of fact, a lot of what we had to struggle against was in the possession and the power of Democrats who came from the South. And when we showed them the tenaciousness and the conviction and the sense of great purpose that the people of this nation had into transforming our condition, all those Democrats from the South ran off and became Republicans as an act of punishment for what we were trying to achieve as a people. And that punishment continues to play itself out. What eludes us is the bankruptcy of the action itself. This country reveals its moral decay every day of its existence. Our prisons, the largest prison system in the world, are filled with those who are the victims of poverty. The women who are disenfranchised, young teenage mothers, are victims of poverty. Poverty is knocking at our door all day long. It sits in the mirror for us to look in every morning. When we look at what's going on with the schools in this country, we build more prisons than we build schools. We have more young black men and women in the prisons of America than we have in the universities. Poverty is in our face all day long. Why is everybody behaving all of a sudden like this is some great revelation?
He is here? Are they both here right now?
And I'll tell you something, there's a lot of people out here who are really pissed off. We are angry, we're upset, we're sad, we hold our children, we wheel our wheelchairs, we look around for some comfort, and we don't find any. Well, we have to look to ourselves, because I think the last frontier of truth and hope in this country are the people themselves. We look at these things in terms of sound bites and short-term efforts. It's going to take longer than that. And I think we have to serve notice that we're looking for a second party. Some people will suggest you two exist. I say there's really one. It comes in various grades of difference. The American people have some decisions to make. Our foreign policy has made a wreck of this planet. And when I move to these places, I see American policy written on the walls of oppression everywhere. We don't need an independent committee to find out what happened and what is happening to this country. Our last independent committee told us. And Bush and the arrogance of these people to go off again and play the same scenario because they know that we ain't going to make a difference before they want to go has to be changed. We have to give them a call to a new awakening. We know when they give a contract, a no-bid contract to Halliburton, we know what they did when they gave that contract to Halliburton in Iraq. We know what they do when they suspend minimum wage and go out and get immigrants to come in and to do the dirty work. And in suspending the minimum wage are setting black people and brown people and immigrants and men and women against one another when we should in fact be uniting. So I would hope that while the Black Caucus celebrates its moment, while we have all these wonderful black leaders and our white progressive associates, that we would get off the rhetoric, get off the redundancy, and dig deep into this country.
All right. Now, that of course was something that we did pull off of YouTube. We are not, I know there was a Bernie Kratz screen on there. We are not Bernie Kratz, okay? We are for the uplift of our people. We are for truth, but again, I'm not for any of these people. The people that I am supporting are black people. The people that I am rolling with in terms of their teachings and their person is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And what he desired is that we not reduce Dr. King. I'm talking about Minister Farrakhan. That we not reduce Dr. King to just a slogan. That we not reduce Malcolm X to just a slogan. There are a lot of people talking about these folks. I've heard a lot of people quoting Malcolm, but not living Malcolm. You understand what I'm saying? Quoting, and we can go to quoting Jesus, but not living Jesus. Quoting Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but not living in the sunnah or the example of the man that they quote. So it's all right to quote a man, but let's live and exemplify the good qualities of that man or woman that we are quoting. If we think that they had something to contribute, let's emulate the goodness of these people. Now, I wanted to mention this to you, and this, of course, comes from an article in the Final Call newspaper. Y'all know that the Final Call newspaper is the greatest publication on earth. It is a national publication, an international publication, black-owned and operated, not controlled by outside forces, not controlled by advertising dollars of the slave master's children. I'm going to read this, a few paragraphs of the article that deals with Dr. King in the current edition of the Final Call. And it says, over the years, humanitarian and civil rights champion Dr. Martin Luther King, his mission, narrative, and work have been gentrified, watered down, whitewashed, hijacked, and blatantly misquoted. But he was a revolutionary who truly fought for freedom, justice, and equality. As the nation prepares to honor and reflect on Dr. King with activities and events on the U.S. federal holiday marking his birth, observed the third Monday in January, it is important to understand and unpack his true legacy and impact. Understand this. He spoke out against the Vietnam War. He was against militarism. He was against the military-industrial complex. He was against the aggression, foreign aggression of the U.S. military. He would be against all of the wars that have been fought since he died. Dr. King would be against. And one of the things that his daughter had to get somebody straight on was that his father would be against the bombing of the Palestinians. That's right there on page 2 of the Final Call, that her father would be calling for an end to the bombing. The bottom line is that we have sold the thing out, sold the movement out for our own comfort. And because you're comfortable, right? Dr. King said that you were more concerned with cars and ranch-style homes than freedom. This is what he said about black leadership at that time. And I would ask the question, has that changed? Are we in a different situation with respect to leadership, with respect to the direction of the people? Now, the people are deceived. Okay, that's the first word. Deception is the first word in our topic, because the people believe that at the time of Dr. King's assassination, that he was working for a dream to hold hands with white people. And that is not what he was on course for. He was on course to literally do boycotts and put economic pressure on those who would oppress his people and make them absolutely bankrupt. Now, in his last speech, he instructed the black community to take their money out of white banks and put it in the black banks. But they don't play that speech at school. To take your insurance out of white companies and put your insurance with black companies. We don't really follow that. You understand? So we go all the way back to 1963, and we don't come up to 5 years later, where he's telling you to literally divest in businesses that were not black businesses. So now when you look at the NAACP today, if y'all want to claim the legacy of King, y'all got to be claiming what? Black banking, black business, black insurance. These are the kinds of things that empower black people, that if you're the oldest civil rights organization, that's what you need to be working on. Now, incidentally, and this is not to be pejorative or insulting, incidentally, the NAACP did not get its first black president, I believe, until 1975. They did not start off black run, black funded, black owned, and black operated. There were other people controlling that situation. And up to this very moment, white philanthropy heavily influences the direction and the stands that the NAACP takes or doesn't take. That's just a fact. We cannot have a black organization that is funded by people who want to control us, and a lot of times we've essentially become a pay-to-play situation, all right? You got people taking money from Big Pharma to promote certain things to us, right? Taking money from them to then come to us and talk to us after they've been paid off by the people who are making the money. This is what happens, all right? So you got to understand these things. We cannot be free if the leaders are enslaved. I just want to lay that out there, if the leaders are enslaved. And that is why I am so strong a supporter, so strong a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because they represent two men that cannot be bought, cannot be sold, and will not compromise on the concept of freedom, the concept of justice, and the concept of equality for black people. And they tell it like it is, and they have set up a program which is designed to transform our lives into something better, that our character would improve. Because if we're going to unify as a people, we can't be stabbing each other in the back. We have to have what? Better character. We cannot be sellouts and yet unify at the same time. We have to have good character. And that's why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad preached Islam. He preached Islam because Islam would develop the character. And righteousness, or Islam, is actually the nature of the human being. And that by submitting to the nature in which we were created, our righteousness and love would bring us together in a mighty brotherhood. It wasn't about hate. It was about us loving us. And so for those of you who have something to say, if white folks don't like something that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan said, or white folks don't like something that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote, or if they don't like something that this one said or that one said, or it could be Kyrie Irving one minute, right? It doesn't matter. But if you all are going to speak out against words and had nothing to say while the Iraqis were being bombed, had nothing to say when Libya, 50,000 Libyans were incinerated under the order of Barack Obama, an African nation that was about to set up a bank so that Africa would not be dependent upon the International Monetary Fund. All of that was destroyed, and they put a black Democrat in front of it and pushed it on through. And sometimes unknowingly and sometimes knowingly out of fear, we have been the greatest instruments of the satanic control to keep us down globally. Just going to put it out there. Globally, we're down. And we're down because we don't have enough courage to stand up, and we don't have enough courage to stand up because we lack the love that we need to have for one another. You gotta, if you're black, you gotta love black. You understand? And when you love black, you will do for what you love. You'll stand up for what you love. See, Dr. King, this man here, he stood up for what he loved. However you think he did the best he could, he literally stood up and he lost his life under death threat constantly. Imagine your wife answering the phone and somebody on the other end saying, we're going to kill that N-word husband of yours. He's not going to live past this week. And this is constant 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. You understand? Rosa Parks had to deal with the same thing. People calling her the N-word, threatening to kill her. She had to run out of the South all the way to Detroit to find some kind of safety. You understand? So it's a situation where we are in the same identical fight. Now, I want to mention something about reparations that people are talking about. Our wonderful sister Vicki Diller talks about it. Brother Philip Scott of the African Diaspora Channel, he brings it up all the time. The thing I would caution is, look at the word reparation. Reparation means the process of repair. It is a process of correcting or reversing damage that has been done. We have a mental problem based upon what happened during slavery. We have a mental problem. We are self-hating. You understand? And cancer is a situation where the body begins to work against itself. Autoimmune diseases, the body works against itself. We have an autoimmune disease combined with cancer based upon what happened to us in those years that we were in slavery. And the enemy has used the media, he's used music, he's used his Central Intelligence Agency, he's used the Federal Bureau of Investigation and all kinds of groups to come in and to keep us divided and to keep us in a self-hating posture. That's what we got to get out of. We must get out of this self-hating posture. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, like his father before him, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, has warned us that this enemy was going to be turned loose on us. He already has the 50 calibers waiting. During the Million Man March, there were 30,000 troops underneath the ground waiting for something to happen so that they could come out there and slaughter us. They are always waiting for an opportunity to kill us. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if they're waiting for an opportunity to kill us, we got to be looking for an opportunity to help one another. Just the opposite. We're not supposed to be laying back in the cut trying to rob one another. Laying back in the cut trying to carjack one another. And I grew up in New Orleans. I grew up in New Orleans. And I'm telling you, this is the wrong way to go. We got to find ways to what? To help each other. To where when I see my brother, I know I got some help. Not somebody that's going to hurt me, somebody that's going to what? Help me. And this is where we need to go as a people. All right, we got to be raised up. The slavery situation can no longer be the case. Staying on the Democrat or Republican plantations is out of the question. Out of the question. You understand? If you go into that voting booth and vote for the party that put you last, vote for the party that didn't put money behind the black candidate but put millions of dollars behind the white candidate, the Democratic Party in the state of Louisiana, if you go in and vote for them and for lack of a better word, bend over for them, then you deserve what you get. And like Malcolm said, the reason that they put the Democratic Party that you put first, put you last, is because you're a chump. And they don't have to give respect to a chump. They don't have to give respect to somebody that they can punk out anytime they want to. They don't have to give you respect. All they have to do is mention fear of the alternative. And then they bring in the identical policy. Do you know that Joe Biden finished the wall that Trump started? The wall was finished under the Biden administration. The way that Joe Biden is treated the Ukrainians, it's over 100,000 white Ukrainians that have come into this country. And their color has nothing to do with me. But Joe Biden must like their color better. Because Joe Biden sent the Haitians back, whipped them with whips. We showed you the pictures. Beat them with whips, chased them down on horses. But he brought the Europeans in and gave them food stamps, free housing, put them in an ESL program for their children because they don't want the black population to grow. They're trying to keep the population from flipping to people of color as quick. And so that was one of the things they did with the Ukrainians. And mark my words, some of y'all in major cities, you're going to be riding down the street 5 years from now, and you're going to get pulled over by a Ukrainian. And the Ukrainian is going to say, get out of the car. Get your black ass out of the car. He ain't even going, he going to sound just like Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're going to be like, what? Yeah, lay down on the ground. Don't move. That's what they're going to tell you. You understand? They're going to put them ahead of you. I'm telling you what's going to happen. The Ukrainians are going to be on the police force pulling black folks over. While they ran the Haitians back, they deport the Nigerians and the Ghanaians all the time. They always send the darker people out and the whiter people in. This is their policy. This ain't me. This is their policy. So I want y'all to understand this is Biden's work. So when anybody stands up before you and mentions the accomplishments of Biden, you tell them Biden accomplished bringing whites in that live for free, while black veterans are underneath the bridge, broke as hell. He gave those Ukrainians free housing, free education, food stamps, and a stipend, because he understands that you need money to get started. When it comes to white folks, the Biden administration understands you need money to get started. But when it comes to people our color, he doesn't understand that. He's just as racist as Trump. It's just that his language is a little smoother. All right? Now, I wanted to mention this to you. We have our wonderful producer, Sister Khadija Asada Rashad. As they say in the Christian church, keep her lifted up in prayer. She lost her mother. And as we say in the Muslim faith, make dua for our sister. All right? Make dua for our sister. Make prayer for her. She, of course, lost her mother. That is a part of life, but it ain't never easy, because you only get one mama. But the beautiful thing about a mama is they're so powerful, they're so strong until all you need is one. But the bad thing is you only get one. So we'll keep our sister lifted up in prayer. She is a warrior for you. She loves you. When you see her, okay, salute her. She truly loves our people. She truly loves what's right. She truly has a heart of gold. And it's interesting. It's been sometimes puzzling that sometimes some of the best people have some of the hardest struggles. But I guess God doesn't put anything on us that we can't bear. But I wanted to mention that to you, and I want all of you to keep our sister lifted up in prayer. She is a major force behind the Community Defender. She is a major force behind a lot of the conscious programming. Her and her husband are major pushers of this conscious content that a lot of you see. And of course, we want to send a shout out to Brother Valo, who also puts out a lot of conscious content and tries to uplift and inform black people as to really what's going on in this racist state of Louisiana. All right. So we got to commend all of the soldiers that work on our behalf. And here in the city of Lafayette and surrounding areas, you have a lot of soldiers that love you more than any other city I've ever seen. I can't even go to New Orleans and find this many activists, find this many people who are committed to the uplift of our people, even in a bigger city. This area has a bunch of very conscious people who love our people and who understand what it's going to take. All right. So I wanted to lay that out there. And as we move forward, get books on Dr. King. Find out what he said. This book here is the last book he published, which is Where Do We Go From Here? And in this book, he mentions, just casually, how it was routine at the time this book came out, which is 1967, which is the year I was born, how routine it was for people who were getting registered to vote to be beat to death in broad daylight at a courthouse. Like 11:30 in the morning, You go to register to vote. A mob of people stomp you and your wife to death in Mississippi and just leave you out there. That is the kind of stuff that was going on during that time. And now, as of late, we do find, on occasion, black people cut up into pieces, black people shot up when they're FedEx workers, and after they're shot at as FedEx workers, then FedEx fires them because they want to take off after being shot at. You understand? And call the N-word. These are the kind of things that continue to happen in the state of Mississippi and in North Louisiana. These are the kinds of things that we always have to be on guard for. Not much has changed, except that we have more single-parent homes. Not much has changed, except that more of us are in prison than there used to be. Not much has changed, except there are less community schools than there used to be. Things in many cases, in many ways, have gotten worse since that time because the enemy uses certain people that he calls leaders to convince us that things are better when they are from a moral standpoint, when they are from a political strength standpoint, worse than what they used to be, all right? So it's going to take us all coming together, getting over our differences. The Honorable Louis Farrakhan has an article in the current edition of the Final Call on page 20. I want to mention it. It says the disease of envy among black leaders in organizations, where he addresses the fact that a lot of times envy keeps us from working together as we should work together, right? So somebody might envy one. Well, this one is doing this. Everybody has a gift they bring to the table. Okay, everybody has talents and skills that you bring to the table that are unique to you. You don't have to envy somebody else because of their gift. You have a gift that God has given you. You understand? And it's because you focus on what God gave someone else, you fail to develop the beautiful gifts that God gave you. Because if you're on the earth, God gave you something. Okay? If you're on the earth, God gave you something and he put you here for a purpose. And if you're a people who are mentally enslaved like us, you're here for liberation. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I don't care who you are. If you're black in America, your job is to help to elevate the condition of your people. You are here for liberation, whether you know it or not. Some of us are awakened to the fact that we are here for that. But a lot of us think that we're just here to work for the enemy, retire, and die. That's not what God didn't put you to work somewhere for 30 years, get a gold watch or whatever, get your 401k, get your pension, and just go somewhere and die. No, that's not it. He put you here to make this earth a better place. He put you here to work for justice. He put you here to bring light when there's darkness, all right? So may God bless you as your brother greets you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.